Sing me a song of a lass that is gone.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee and today's video is another video in the Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone playlist series. Now, if you haven't been keeping up to date with this playlist or you are worried about spoilers for the book Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone, this video is probably not for you, as we are most certainly going to discuss things that have happened and it is full of spoilers. I cannot believe that we are already up to chapter 53. It felt like just 10 minutes ago that we had started this book. We are now officially 1/3 of the way through, which I know doesn't seem like much, but for me, it most certainly seems like we're finally starting to get right into the craziness that's going to happen in this book. I mean, there are some big things coming. Big things, and today's video most certainly has something that I have personally been looking forward to seeing happening, if only just a little glimmer of it, but we'll get to that very shortly. Chapter 53 is titled First Foot. Now, this is set on September 16th, and it is the first official day that the brand new big house has its front door that is able to close, lock, all secure. We have a front door, which is very exciting. I know that we have been, I personally have been picturing this house build for a long time. So to know now that they have a front door that's lockable, that's a nice little touch. It probably won't keep out too many people, but we have security, and I feel like that was the entire emphasis of that, security and finalizations of the house. It's finally coming along. But one of the first visitors that arrives to the house in this chapter is Hiram Crombie. Now, I was very confused last chapter as to who Cyrus was belonging to and how he fit in, but we very quickly learned that he is the brother of Hiram Crombie. So that's where that all tied in. Thank you to everyone who put it in the comments in the last video too. That it really helped me. I was struggling bad with him. Anyway, Hiram has arrived and he is all about asking for permission for his brother Cyrus to start sort of seeing Fanny on an official level. Now, obviously this is sort of what's going on here, Hiram? You're not usually as friendly as this. And Jamie explains to Claire that, well, yeah, this is because he's putting an affiliation with me. He's going, like, obviously Cyrus, I believe Cyrus actually does have feelings for Fanny, but whatever. But for Hiram, this is most certainly a tactic to have somebody situated on Jamie's side and an association with him for when, well, let's say the war comes. This is very interesting how everybody is starting to be played out like chess pieces in regards to the war. It's starting to get very interesting. But of course, it was made very, very clear to Fanny that there was no pressure at all. If she was not wanting this to happen, it most certainly wouldn't. But Fanny does agree because, as we know, she's already hanging out with Cyrus. They already have got a little bit of a connection. But a little thing that I didn't realise is that Cyrus speaks very little to none, to any really, English. Now, I didn't realise that previously, and Fanny explains that, yeah, he speaks Gaelic. So that's all well and good, you know, she's absolutely fine with the situation. And she also points out that she has been along and listened to his family sing, which is something that, I hope that in a later TV series, many moons to come, is played out, because the singing would be fantastic. But that was something that I found really interesting, that he doesn't speak very much English. So I just thought that's a keynote for the back of the brain. That's a nice little keynote. Overall, when Cyrus does arrive to the house within the next day or the next couple of days, he does seem very lovely. So that's a good sign. And Jamie does make a point. There's a few things that happen where, like his blessing of the tools and how he arrives earlier than Hiram. Things like that Jamie goes, that's good. That's good. And you do see that sort of Cyrus, I think, is going to be a gentle soul. I really think he's going to be okay. He's not going to be one that I'm scared of. But who knows? But so far, I think I really like Cyrus. Chapter 54 is titled Moon Rising, and this chapter, ladies and gentlemen, it is so much, there is just, it's important. It's very, very important. But it starts off with a very harsh awakening for Jamie and Claire as someone is banging on the front door. Jamie, of course, runs down to see who it is, and at the front door is a young woman by the name of Agnes Cloudtree. Young Agnes had been roaming the woods in the dark for at least 3 hours, it was discovered, because her mother had gone into labour. Now, obviously, her mother had multiple children. Agnes was one, and there were 2 additional young boys. But Agnes knew that something had gone horribly wrong during this labour, so she was smart enough to go running looking for help. Thank goodness she found Jamie and Claire, who of course set off on their way towards Agnes's home. Now, on arrival, we are very abruptly introduced to Agnes's, I think it's her father. We're going to say, well, she does call him Pa, so father. And Suzanne, who is Agnes's mother, who is, in fact, in labour. Now, the very first introduction with her father, or her Pa, as she called him, was he slapped her on the face and asked where she'd been. I already don't like this man, and of course, at the time, he's blind drunk. Suzanne, the poor woman, is attempting to give birth, and it's very clear that something is going wrong. Claire rushes in and attempts to help. We then discover that Suzanne is actually pregnant with twins, and there is most certainly some complications happening. Claire, of course, comes to her aid and attempts to assist. She does warn Suzanne that if the babies aren't born soon, it's going to be very fatal. It gets to the point where Claire even tells Suzanne we're going to need to cut the babies out. Suzanne pretty much accepts straight away that her death is imminent, but of course insists on trying to save the babies. As Claire is getting ready to help birth these babies through what I would assume is a cesarean, Suzanne basically went full out and was able to give birth to one of the babies, a baby boy. Unfortunately and very sadly, the second baby, a baby girl, was born stillborn. Now, of course, this is just a tremendously sad part of the story. I mean, any sort of death is sad, but when it involves the death of a child, it's obviously going to be horrific as well. But for Claire and Jamie, it brings back the instantaneous memories of Faith. And there is most certainly some emotional scenes happening during this section of the chapter. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It really, really broke my heart. Whilst Claire was holding the young baby girl, though, blue sparks start to happen. Now, Claire, in all of her wisdom, she knows everything, like the conversations about the blue spark. She knows different feelings that she's feeling within herself, and she could ultimately feel her heartbeat sort of, I don't want to say transferring into the baby, but there was something going on here, and she sees a blue spark. I mean, that blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I just want to put it out there. She was unable to save the baby. She had already passed away. But the blue sparks, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it is happening. Claire is most certainly coming into these magic powers, and I cannot wait for this to come out and play out, because this is opening it up. This is opening up the entire series to a whole new level, this blue spark is. And it's obviously in Claire's mind as well, you know, the fact that when her hair turns white, she will be in her full power. Claire ultimately asks Jamie what colour he would say her hair is at the moment. Now, obviously it's not quite white, but he does say on the roots it's most certainly moonlight. As heartbreaking as that chapter was, it was so well written. And the fact that we now have officially, like, Claire has officially seen herself with the blue light, as in not receiving the blue light, not, you know, she is there. She is right on the verge of this magic power. And I mean, is anyone else as excited about it as I am, or is it something you're not really interested in? Because for me, it is just like, it's up there. It's going to be the tell-all for how this series is going to end. It's going to be one of those very pivotal moments, I believe. But if you're not into that sort of thing, is it something that you're just sort of going, oh, are we going down that path? Are we now going to have magic? What are your thoughts? Chapter 55 is titled Venom of the North Wind, and another chapter where we are abruptly awoken. Well, Rachel and Ian are abruptly awoken. Of course, as they sort of are awoken, young Ian has his hand over Rachel's mouth in a slight panic that there is somebody outside or there are people outside. As he jumps up and he realizes that it is actually multiple Mohawk Indians, tensions are much more at ease. Unfortunately, though, they have come with some devastating news. A massacre has occurred. Now, this is just absolutely heartbreaking. And of course, we know that Emily and her children are out there still, like they're characters that are still being played out in somewhere in life. And of course, young Ian is panicked for their well-being. The Indians do stay for 3 whole days, and at the end of the 3rd day, once they have left, Rachel does start asking Ian some questions in regards to Emily, like asking what she looked like, was he attracted to her, sort of things. You know, Rachel is not vain because of the friends sort of thing I'm learning, so, you know, she's not really that, I don't think she's going to be jealous by any shape or form, like that's not where this was going. But a really cool tidbit of information, which I don't think I picked up earlier on either, was the fact that young Ian believes that one of Emily's children may actually be his. Now, of course, this explains, I mean, obviously he cares for Emily and the children, but why, when he's learnt of this massacre, an additional sort of, has come into his mind, because it could be one of his children that have been involved in this massacre. It's just absolutely heartbreaking to think that, you know, all these people, they're so far away from their loved ones, and it's so, yeah, it's really hard. Rachel takes the news really well, obviously, like, you know, that's fine. If it is, it is. You know, I love Rachel. I absolutely love, nothing seems to faze her, and she's so just direct and to the point. It's fantastic. But of course, this news most certainly sets out the scene for what is to come in the next couple of chapters. Chapter 56 is titled, "Thee Would Make a Good Friend." Now, basically, young Ian has declared that he is going to go and assess what has happened, make sure he can find Emily and the kids and see if everybody is safe. I was not shocked by this at all. Rachel is most certainly going with him. She is strong-willed and determined and will not be letting him go alone. What I loved about this chapter, though, is that we discover Rachel has declared that she's going with young Ian as she is telling Jenny. Now, I thought that Jenny might be a little bit panicked and a little bit sort of, oh, what do you mean? But their relationship is just amazing. That is, we all know I love Rachel. We all know I love Jenny. And the fact that they get along and are cohesive and everything like that is just magnificent. During their conversations, Rachel does say to Jenny how she believes that Jenny is just beyond brave, that she's, you know, not afraid of anything, and she's so strong-willed. But Jenny does say to her, well, I've been scared many times in my life, many times, including when my mother had died, and, you know, I had to look after Jamie and her dad, and it had a whole new depth level to Jenny. You definitely got to see her explaining when she was her most vulnerable, but the fact that she is so strong-willed and she's just, you know, she's resilient. Resilient is a fantastic word that I would associate with Jenny. She really is. And you can see that rubbing off on Rachel, even though she's already so strong-willed and determined. She's definitely in great care with Jenny. Great care. Chapter 57 is titled Ready for Anything. And in the continuing with, let's tell Jenny what's happening. Let's break the news that young Ian, Rachel, and of course baby Oggie are about to go off on a journey. Ian goes to tell his mum, Jenny, that, you know, we're going. He doesn't realize that Rachel has actually already told her. Now, when he arrives to find her, he, you know, arrives at the goat shed because she's milking the goats. And it's really lovely. Like, it's a nice scene to set out where, you know, Jenny has said this is where the goat shed is to be, and he built it. And as they're arriving, it's sort of talked about that. I really like that because it just shows how much young Ian will do for Jenny as well, like how she wanted her shed built and where, and having, you know, views and things like that. Their relationship is very strong at this point. I mean, it always has been, even when he was away. I feel their relationship was very, very strong. But here on the ridge, it's definitely at its peak, I think. Anyway, young Ian goes to tell Jenny about what is happening, and she abruptly says, well, I know you're going. That's totally fine. I would too, obviously, like, not unexpected at all, but of course I will be coming. Now, I was blown away. I truly thought that Jenny might have stayed and sort of watched over the ridge or stayed, you know, but I'm really, really glad that she is going on this journey with them, because it's definitely going to have some heartache. Every time somebody leaves the ridge on a mission or on a journey or on an adventure, something bad happens. I am very excited to see what their journey and their adventure holds, but it worries me because every single time that somebody leaves the ridge and they go off on an adventure or they go off whatever, bad things happen. Something bad is going to happen, and there are 3 very, very important, close to my heart characters here all going together. That concerns me because generally one never returns. And I will be absolutely devastated if anything happens to them. Of course, I might be completely wrong and they might go on an adventure, find out what's happening. We might bring additional characters back to the ridge. But at this point in time, I'm a little bit worried. What do you think? I mean, obviously, I know I'm so behind. If you have read ahead and you know something horrendous happens, don't put it into the comments unless that is legitimately what you thought at the time. But if you haven't read the book, please let me know what you think. Is it always scary when characters go off on adventures in this book? Does anyone else have that, oh, okay, yous are going there, let's make sure everybody's safe. Travel in pairs, nobody separate. Come on, everyone keep together. Because I definitely do with this book. Definitely do. A little bit off topic, but who is excited for the season 6 premiere? I know, well, officially today, as I film this, the Outlander online premiere had happened, and man, were they looked good, and the orchestra looked fantastic. I know I'm very, very excited for season 6 to drop here in Australia. I mean, there's not a person out there that I don't think is excited for the season 6 premiere, but let me know how you're celebrating it. Are you having a watch party, or what are you doing in celebration of the season 6 launch? I also have recently put up in the community tab section on my channel about my new uploading structure. So we're definitely going to have a lot of uploads coming in the foreseeable future. I have, we're going to have 4 uploads a week, 2 of which are Outlander, 1 is true crime, and 1 is about me, basically, my general life. I like to include videos that are sort of story times about myself, racing and things like that, because I also use this channel as a bit of a time capsule for my life. As I sort of, you know how you have Facebook memories pop up, and I see my trips pop up in past and things like that, I always jump back and watch my travel vlogs as they sort of pop up each day for that little like reminder. So I hope that everybody is going to enjoy our new format. I mean, Outlander clearly overrules everything and has 2 whole days, so you know, I'm trying to keep everybody happy in that aspect. But I also hope you might like enjoy the true crime videos, or additionally, you know, the stuff about me and my hometown and racing and all that jazz. But if not, I'll see you in the next Outlander video, and I hope you have a great week.
Sing me a song of a lass that is gone.